about making it look nice tonight. I'm not going to do that. Okay, that just takes up a lot of time that we really don't need. You don't need to see me moving things around the screen. So I'm going to I'm going to go right to the things that really matter on this and give you the background of why you're doing it and how it's actually working behind the scenes. So, and again, I asked you very kindly twice to do this tutorial before you came to class. I hope you did that. Otherwise, you're going to be lost at times, and too bad. So here we go. I am going to bring up, are you seeing my screen, Aziz?
No.
You're not seeing my screen, okay. So when I have you guys share yours, it undoes mine. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, good, all right. We're going to work with file T03-01-yourname.accdb, and of course you'd put your name in there. But before I do that, though, I just want to open up this raw file and show you what I've done in it for you. So I've already created the subject table, and there's a subject table called customer, and I'm going to open that up in Datasheet so you can see it. Obviously, you get your record identifier field, and you got the name of the customer, and that is the alternate key field, is the name of the customer. I will never expect two customers to have exactly the same name. I know that probably could happen, you know, and maybe I should take care of that. But I've got a pretty small company, so I don't expect I'm going to have a lot of duplication in names. If I did, I could always put something in the name itself to make it distinguishable. I've got a mailing label, an address, city. These are all kinds of things that you've already done now in your subject tables. And if I come over here a bit, you'll see there's a field called preferences, and that is a lookup field. So that's my foreign key field coming from some relationship, and it's a multi-pick. So a lot like the multi-pick that you guys created for your on the assignment. And then I have a single pick for the credit card type. And again, there is a lookup form that's attached to each of those, so I can manage those values, all right? And that's nice, you know, I mean, maybe if it's just for me, that's enough to just have a data sheet. But if I was trying to make this a little bit more friendly or even a little bit more usable for me, it'd be really nice if I could group things together that kind of belong together, you know, have them in separate parts of the screen. It would be really nice if I could actually have some smarts in this, you know. One of the things I do, for instance, is I give senior citizens, anybody over the age of 55, I give 55 or older, I give them a break, you know, so I want to know which of my customers are over 55. If their credit card's expired, I'd like to know that, you know. And those are things that you really just can't do in a validation rule on a field. But it turns out we can do it in other ways, okay? And we can do it through a form, through what's called a control on the form. So we're going to do all that tonight. I'm going to show you what's called the subject form. And I'm going to have to close you guys down so I could see this. Again, Aziz, every now and then I'm going to ask you, am I coming in clear? Just say yes, okay?
Oh.
All right. So that's the subject table. Again, I have two lookup tables. If I open them up in design mode, you'll see that they have both the same structure. I didn't do anything to change that structure at all. All right, and then I created lookup forms for each one of them, so that's in here. So now we're going to use this we're going to use this. It's called FRM subject. That is the subject object from the baseline object library, and that's the thing we're actually going to build tonight. Okay, I'm going to close this down now because, as I said, I've already started doing this. The things I've actually done already are pretty straightforward, okay, and I'll just talk through those when I get to that point. But first thing I did was I took the subject and I just copied it into a new subject called customer. So now I know that that form, FRM customer, is the form for this table, TBL customer. One of the things that the naming conventions does, it helps you understand the grouping of different types of objects. So now I'm going to open this up right now in what's called form view. Okay, we would usually just go right to design view, but I'm going to open in form view since I've already started working on this. And you'll see it's actually saying things like, there's a macro that needs to run here. There are macros throughout this whole thing. And unless you do this thing exactly in the right order, you follow the tutorial exactly, you will have problems, okay? So that's what I really want to focus on tonight, are those things that could get you in trouble, all right? Because the other stuff is pretty straightforward, okay? Putting a field in there, moving it on the screen, expanding it, putting a border and all that, you know, I think you guys picked that up from the videos already. I'm going to go to design view now, all right? So here's the design view for a form. I'm going to close down the property sheet to start out with. In a typical form, you will have three sections, okay? One is called the form header. Another is called the details section, and then there's another one called the footer. Right now, our footer is not expanded. If I wanted to actually have a footer on here, I could click on the footer and then drag down, and it'll actually put a footer in there for me if I want to. But for what we're doing right now, you really don't need a footer, all right? The header and the detail are pretty much all you need to do a subject form right now, all right? So don't go messing around too much with the footer. There's really nothing it can do for you other than to put more information on the screen. What tends to happen is when I move through the records, these forms will bring up one record at a time. A subject form is also called a single record form, in that I'm going to see all the information for a single record. And if I want to go to the next record, I actually have to navigate to the next record, all right? When I do that, you'll see that the stuff that's happening here in the middle will change. It'll look like it flipped from one to another, where the stuff at the top almost looks like it's static, although truthfully it's not. It just has that impression that it is. So in the header section, we have one of the most important and one of the hardest things we're going to do in this class, and that is to put what's called the find record control. Now, back over in the table, if I open it up and you see all those fields, and it will do that because I've already bound this form to this table, and I'll show you how I did that in a second, okay? And it's just warning me that if I go make a change here now, it could upset what's being done on the form. That's all that message did. But if I look back here, you can see I've got all my fields. They're all named, and this is just like what you did in lesson 1 and a little bit in lesson 2. All right, and I've got my foreign key fields, and they've got their lookup, and we've got the lookup form attached to it. So what I really want, though, is I want to be able to go and put data into these fields. And the way to do that is to create a control on the form that's bound to these fields. So if I go back here really quick, you'll see I've got a bunch of controls that I've already put in here. And they are bound to certain fields. So for instance, this one, the control for an address, is bound to the field txt customer-address. And that's how we enter data into this. But there are other kinds of controls that aren't bound. They're used to just do things like help you navigate, maybe invoke a macro, and we'll learn about that when we start building applications. Right now, the one I'm going play with a bit is this one that says find on it. It's the find record control, and you can see it's unbound. Access is telling me that there is no field that this is bound to right now. In other words, whatever value comes up in this thing will not be stored anywhere in the database. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show values that are already stored somewhere else in the database. I'm going to actually show you values for the individual records, and then we will use this to pick what record we want to go to. After we pick, a macro behind the scenes will actually move the record in here to the record I want. So the first thing I need to do is I need to put something in here, something that show basically the values of the records I want to be able to move to. So, and again, one of the other things I should show here off the canvases, okay, these are called canvases, these dots. If I go off the canvases here, you've got basically what's called just the blank form, okay? If you double click on that, it'll bring up the property sheet for the form. Did you see that? Okay, it says form. If I move to any one of these controls, they have property sheets also. And so when I clicked on the one for the find record control, it's a combo box control, it brought up a combo box property sheet. And you can see it says, this is CBO find record. I name that, okay? That is one of the naming conventions for a combo box. You use CBO and then some name for it. I actually named that. Never change that name. This is one of those things that is set up for you that you never have to do. The only thing you will ever have to do in the property sheet for this combo box now is to set its record source. And that is down away. If I go down away, these are all the properties for this combo box right here. And I'm going down to this one that says row source. I'm sorry, I said record source before. I meant to say row source, okay? And you can see it's kind of like what we did for the drop-down box on the lookup fields, okay? We have a select query that's going to go out to the table, and it's going to go out to the table that this happens to be bound to and bring that back. Now, before I do all that, let me close it all down again, all right? Because I did want to go back to the property sheet, show you more about that. Again, I could double click out here to bring up the property sheet, but the other thing I could go up here do is go up to design, and you'll see a icon in the ribbon that says property sheet. If you open that, it'll open up the property sheet for the form. It would have done the same thing if I had been on one of these controls and I hit property sheet. It would open up the property sheet for them for that control. So now I've got the property sheet for the form, okay? I want to show you what I've already set that you will have to set, all right? And this is in step, and I've got it right here. I'm looking at the tutorial as I'm doing it here. This is all in LO3. I'm on step 20C, okay? The first property that you want to set on the form is the table that the form is bound to, all right? So this form, FRM customer, we want to bound it to TBL customer. When you first come in here, you'll see it says TBL curly Q subject, okay, like it usually does. That means you want to have the subject of the table is the customer. And if you hit the drop down, you'll see that table in here and you can just pick it from there. Then you want to have the caption that will go in the little tab here when you open the form. It's just the subject. So again, customer. That's a lot like what we did then for the TLK, for the lookup table, same thing. But there's two other properties you need to set on a subject form. And one is what's called the navigation caption. Now this isn't critical. If you don't do it, what you'll see is when you navigate at the bottom, it'll say subject, okay? What you really want to say though is the name of the subject. So this would say curly brackets subject, just replace it with customer. And then further on down, those are actually all pretty easy, okay? But then further on down, let's see if I can remember where it's at. Maybe I don't have to do this. Let me think about this. You know what? I think I fixed this so you don't have to do it anymore. Give me 1 second. I know it says in the, let's see. Yeah, it says I should set the order by. I wonder why I didn't set that here. Where's order by? Order by right here. Don't do this. I'm going to open up this macro. I want to see if I may have written a macro to do this. No, I didn't. Okay. All right. I take that back. I just forgot to do it. All right. So in this order by field, this is where I get to say what field I want to actually order the records on. So I want to make it in alphabetical order based on the customer name. So again, to signal that I want to do this based on a field, I use the curly bracket, TXT, which is the prefix for the short text field, customer, and then name. I'm sorry, capital C, customer. I wonder how I forgot to do this before. Customer name, okay? Now, and I could even, whoops, and again, square bracket. So square bracket, TXT, customer dash name, square bracket to close it out. If you wanted to make it reverse order, you could say descending. If you want to say ascending, you can. You could say ASCEND, and it'll put it in ascending order. But that's the default. You don't really need to have ascending on there. All right, so now I've actually set that up so that when I open it up, it knows what it's bound to, it knows what the form should show at the top, it knows how to order the form, and it knows that to give you a little signal here that when you navigate, you're navigating from one customer to another. We just did all that just in that one step. All right, always save. And now I want to go and actually open up the property sheet for this find record form. So now I'm going to go up here, and in this one, there is only one field you ever have to worry about taking care of. It's the row source field. Unfortunately, it's one of the harder things you have to do, all right? And it's a I don't call it step because I've got steps in the tutorial. There's 4 things you have to do. So and you have to do them in a certain order, okay? So first off, if you didn't see what I just did, I'm going to close it down so you can see it again. All right. Over here, all the way to the right, you see that dot, dot, dot? That's the ellipse, just like we had with the lookup table. If I hit that, it will then open up the query builder that will allow me to build a query that will basically bring back the values I want to populate that drop-down menu with, that combo box with. I'm going to close down the property sheet for the query so you can see more. Now, I've got a I've got a dummy table in here, subject. It's actually the object that we created the subject form from. I'm sorry, the subject table from. But I've got that in here, and the reason I've done that is because I wanted to at least give you part of this that gets you started, okay? So what you'll want to do is you want to put in here the name of the table that the form is bound to. So if I come up here and I do show table, you'll see customer. I'm going to add customer to this, okay? Now I've got the fields that I actually need to bring back. Just like we did on the lookup tables, what we're really going bound to that is the primary key field. So we need to have that in here first, all right? Now, if I expand this out, you're seeing that it's actually talking about a primary key that ought to be in this table, which there isn't one. Just hit this drop down, and it'll show you a list of all the fields you have right now, and you want to put the customer auth record identifier in there. Okay, now I have the primary key field in there. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to put the alternate key field here. To do that, similar thing. My alternate key I know is txt customer name. Now, this is a single field alternate key. Later on, I'm going to talk to you about what you do if you have a multiple field alternate key. But right now, let's just worry about the single field alternate key. I'm going to hit the drop down. I'm going to find customer name. I'm going to put that in there. And I have the fields now that I need. And you'll notice that customer name is in ascending order so that when I hit that combo box and I see the customer names, they'll come up in ascending order. All right. But again, it's not the customer names that are bound to that combo box. It's this record identifier. Now, the last thing you need to do, and this is very important, if students forget to do anything, this is usually what they forget to do, and it will mess you up. You have to get rid of this subject, this TBL subject. Even though you're not using it anywhere, it will mess you up, okay? Because it will pop up in the query itself, and because there's nothing there, it will prompt you for something, okay? And you don't want that to happen, all right? So you want to delete this, and the way to do that is just right-click on it and do remove table. Again, this is all in step 0 to C. Get to know it well, all right? After you've done this a couple times, you'll get used to doing it, all right? Now, I'm done. Save it. Save by hitting this one up here, okay? You see where I'm up in the left-hand corner? Hit that save button. This one over here that says save as, never hit it, okay? If you do that, what will happen is Access will prompt you for an object name and actually save this query as if it's an object over in the navigation pane. It may not cause trouble, but sometimes it does, all right? So don't use this save as to save a query here, all right? But to close it, you want to hit this close button. And now if you've done that right, okay, save the form again at the top, all right? And then I'm going to go out there and look at the form again in form view. In other words, that I'm ready to enter data. And you'll see now that I've got a value here. It's on the very first form, which is the very first record, which is a record for Elizabeth Anderson. If I hit the drop down here, you'll see the names of all the customers that I have records for right now over in that customer table. In fact, I didn't show you that to begin with. I'm going to close down this form completely and then go back there and show you that. Oh yeah, I did show you that I've got all these customers there. So what happens there now is when I go and I pick a value here, even though you're seeing the value for Carlos Grillo there, okay, again, what's really bound to this control is the primary key value for that person, all right? So that later on when I move to a record, I'm not looking up the person, I'm looking up their primary key value. It goes faster doing it that way, all right? Because I'm just looking for a simple integer value rather than what could be a long text, okay? Now, truthfully, with that many data points, it wouldn't really matter, but I wanted to set this up so it works exactly the same way as the lookup table query does, so that, because you're used to doing that now, I think you'll get used to doing this really quick too, all right? I am going to go back there and show you though on that. I'm going to bring up the property sheet again for that particular one. If I go up to the top here, you'll see just like we had on the combo box that I have column widths, and the first one I set to 0. I said there's 2 columns, and the first one I'm setting to 0, so it knows, even though it's bound to that first column, show what's ever next to it. So it's going to show the name, all right? And though it knows it's bound to the first column down here where it says bound column. I don't know why why Microsoft split those apart. They put some of them at the top and some of them down here where you actually have the query, but those all go together, all right? It's just like what we saw when we did a lookup query, okay? Z's, you hearing me still?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So now, and again, believe it or not, that is one of the hardest things we're going to do all semester, but just get used to doing it. You're going to do it a lot, okay? Sometime you do a subject form, you'll want to create one of these. And of course, you're going to do that on the homework assignment and on your projects. So, all right. So now I've got this area where I'm actually going to have the controls that let me manage my data. And you can see all these controls just kind of have the same kind of look. Yeah, they're kind of different widths and all that, you know. And then this one here's got a blue border. But those are all called text boxes, okay? Now, it's kind of confusing. I know that some of these are text fields and it's a text box, but it doesn't have to be a text field to have a text box. It just means that what you're viewing will appear to the end user as if it's alphanumeric stuff, okay? It's text oriented. There are other controls and we'll see other controls, okay? But all these are text boxes. Again, you won't have to go in and name any of them, all right? But I am going to open up one of them so you can just see it, okay? So for this one, the one that's bound to the field customer address also has a name customer address. Access actually generated that, okay? And I'm going to show that right now, how that happens, all right? So one of the great things that Microsoft gave the world is this thing that's called a tab control. Now, a tab control is a control that holds other controls, like text box controls, all right? The tab control is just what it sounds like. It's got these tabs. And when I click on a tab, it allows me to group different controls together in a way that I might want to. All right. Now, I'll talk about that again more in a second, okay? One thing I want to point out right away, though, see this one here that says auth star dash record identifier. When I go back to form view, you'll see that that's not showing it. You don't want it to, okay? First off, that's going to show the primary key. And it means nothing to the end user, okay? So we don't want to show it. So that's actually a hidden control. You need it, though. Do not delete it, all right? Now, the reason I'm pointing this out to you right now, when you do your homework assignment, you're going to notice that this is not here, okay? It hit me that since it's hidden, I can actually hide it behind things so you don't accidentally delete it. So I actually moved it up here into the header behind this one that says the find record control. It's behind it, okay? And I even have a note there that says, do not delete this, okay? But if you do happen to come across it, please just don't delete it, all right? Because if you delete it, then the find record won't work. It needs to know it needs to have this control in order to move the record to the record that it wants to go, that this is bound to. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now. I think it will more as we go through the class, but right now I'm just telling you, if you see this one that says auth star dash record identifier, do not delete it, okay? Now, these ones I've already dropped in, all right? Truthfully, you would come in here and this first one would be blank, and in fact, it would probably say general here at the top. In fact, I'm going to go over and open up the raw object, the subject one, just so you can see it in design view to see this is what you will see when you go in here. All right, you'll see general, and then you'll see one that says add your text here. These are just extra tabs that I put in here so you could put more. You could break things up if you want to. You got this one that says general, and you'll always have these ones that says notes, attachments, and data revisions. Do you remember those? That's those star fields that are at the end. Okay, you always have them, so I already built these into the object that you don't have to build that yourself. It's already done for you. Okay, now you can change the look if you want to and all that, but you don't have to. All right, at least not for this first one. All right, so I'm going to close down the baseline object and go back to the one I'm working on. So now I'm going to go up here to this. I'm on design again. If you're doing this along with me right now, I'm in the design tab. You'll see form design tools, and I'm on design tab. And this one, it says add existing fields. Click on that, and you'll get a list of all the fields that are back here in TBL customer. All right, I've already dropped in the address, the city, the region, all those, and I made them look good. I resized them so they fit the screen, all that. You'll need to do that on your own. Right now, I'm just going to dump in the two that I don't have in here right now, okay? I'm going to dump in customer name. I'm going to dump in the mailing label. And you might see too that I don't need to put record identifier in here again. I don't want them ever to see that. It doesn't have any meaning, okay, other than to just manage the record itself. So to dump this customer name into this one now, then I just go and highlight it, and then I keep my left mouse down, and I drag it in here. And if I do it right, this should get dark gray like that. Okay, that means I am in the tab. Okay, I'm not over here in the on the canvas, because I could actually drop it there if I wanted to. Okay, but I want it here. I want it in this tab. So to do that, I want to bring it down and get it to gray over like that. And when I do that, then I just release it, and now I'll put that there. Now I know that doesn't look anything like these, right? First off, it's kind of small, and I know these names could get kind of big. All right. If I, and by the way, I can move off this and go to anything else. Okay, come back here. All I have to do is click on it. Okay, and by clicking on it, you can see it gave me this this border with these little tabs on here and all that allow me to resize it and move it and all that. Right now, this is actually two controls together. It's a text box control and it's a label control. Okay, this thing behind it is the label. Where did that come from? I go back to customer table. I open it up in design view. Again, don't mind that. I go to the customer name. It's the caption I put in here. This is why it's important to put a caption on your fields, because it's going to be generated as a label whenever you have a control for that field. All right. So, and the cool, interesting thing is they're kind of bound together. I move one and the other one moves with them. But yeah, I don't like that. I want that right on top of there. See these big boxes in the left-hand corner of each of those? If I click in that and drag it, it drags independently then. So I can put it wherever I want to on here. I'm going to put it right up here somewhere. I'm going to try to line it up with these ones. And then this one here, I'm going to click on that one and move it underneath that. Whoops, I didn't mean, my mouse slipped. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. And again, the names get kind of big, so I'm going to expand that out. I'm just going to go till I get that expander like this. If you've done things in PowerPoint, you've seen things like this. Obviously, you've done things like this to lay things out on the screen. It's the same principle, all right? Microsoft tried to reuse as much as they could from other products that they have. So if you're used to using PowerPoint, this is actually pretty easy. There are things in here like alignment. You know, I want to make sure that this one is aligned to this one. I can tell right now, just looking at that, it's not. It's a little bit off, you know. So one of the things I could do is I could go up here and I could do a range. What I did is I selected each of those individually. I clicked that one, held my control key down, clicked this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And you probably want to do it on the labels too, just to have them line up correctly. like that. And then you could go to the top and you could do a line and then left. Again, these were in the Mastering Access videos. So if you haven't watched it, watch it and you'll learn how to do all these things. You know, try to make it look nice. This is the idea that this is what end users will actually work with typically are your forms. So you want to make them nice. Now, you might notice I changed the color of this here, you know, and I could do that here very easily by going up here and clicking on that, going to design view for the label, and I'm sorry, format for the label. And if I look in, I see there's one that says shape fill, and I think this is the dark one. I think it's this one here that's called standard color. By the way, I never use theme colors, okay, because theme colors can change and then everything can look really crazy. I use the standard colors typically to color my stuff, okay? So I've got that, and then I've got my my text is white, and I made it bold, all right? So I've got this nice little label now, okay? And that's a nice thing to do. I mean, it looks like the same thing like the rest of them, okay? So now, one of the other things about that field, it's unique and required. And right now, yeah, you'll notice that when I go, in fact, I'm going to go out there right now so you can see it. I'm going back to the form view. If I bring up a brand new one, I'm going to go to a new record. You'll see I've got that unique and required message. But I told you, you don't have to do that, okay? What you could do instead, and I do this a lot, is you could add to that caption if you want to. You could go after that and say, unique and required. Something like that, okay? You can put it in brackets. You can make it a different color. Actually, I don't think you can make it a different color. It's going to want to be white here, okay? If I wanted to make it a different color, another thing I could have done, I'll leave that as, in fact, I'll just Control-Z back to where I was, all right? I could go up here to the top and see this bar here. These are free controls, okay? One of them in here is the label control. It's this one that has AA on it. Click on that, then come down here and you'll see I've got an A here, and see how it turned gray? That means it's going to accept this in this tab. I'm going to put that in there, and now I put an unbound label in there, and I could write unique and required. And maybe I want to make that red or something like that. I'm just going to do the font right now. Whoops, wrong one. Back to format. Okay. How come it didn't select that? I wonder why. You know, it does that. Sometimes it doesn't put the ampersand in there, I notice. Yeah, in fact, I've been doing that on everything. I've been saying unique and spelling out ands. Just because ampersand doesn't always work. Unique and required. You know, I did that as a background. Maybe I went white letters. I could do that. This is up to you, by the way, okay? I mean, I'd like to see you do something like this, you know, and yeah, I could center it in there and all that. I want to see you do stuff like that, but you don't have to make it that color. You don't have to say that particular thing, but give them some indication. Another thing I tend to do to indicate to people that something is required, at least, is I'll highlight the field itself, and then I'll go up and I'll change the outline of the control. So I like to use gold when it's required. And then maybe make it a little bit thicker. So I go to the line thickness. Again, this is up to you to do. But you see, now it's going to look like that to the end user when they come in. All right. So that's kind of nice. Let's do the mailing label. I'm going to do the same thing. We drop that in here. And I'm going to just move that around and move that around. And I want the mailing label to be a required field. Now, it's not an alternate key field, okay? It actually could be if I wanted to, because I doubt I'll have two people with the same mailing label. But it's just a required field. If I go back and look at TBL customer, you'll see I made that is not null and gave it the message. So to speed things up here, rather than going picking those colors and all that, I could just go to one that I've already done, right, like this one, and go up and hit the paintbrush. I'm sure you're used to using this from PowerPoint. And then go on that mailing label and click that, and there it is. And I want to have this outline here. I want to have that. So I could do the same thing there. I could click on that and hit it, and now I basically told it, you know, that's a required thing. If I wanted to have another label here, I could put another label, or I could do a Control-C and a Control-V on that one, and then put that back up here. And it's not unique, but it is required. So I'm going to make that required, you know. And then another one that I did, and by you again resize these to make them look good. You can do all kinds of neat things. I'll tell you, this is your chance to get a little bit of artistic. This is the point in the class where a lot of people start having fun with this. You know, they like to be artistic. You know, they like to think about how things are laid out and all that. And this gives you a chance to do some really good design. Now, this particular memo field, long text field, is a rich text field. When it's rich text, I like to give it a little bit of a different look. So I gave it a blue border. I can give a message up there that says rich text if I want to. And again, I don't necessarily have to make it red. In fact, I don't like to make things red because it usually means that, oh, this is dire. You know, this isn't a dire thing. You know, I might make it green or something like that, you know, make a different color text to make it bold, whatever else. Okay, again, that's up to you. All right, so we're pretty much done with this except for one thing. If I go right now, if I save this and I go out here to the form view, and you'll see now, here's all the information for Elizabeth Anderson in here. If I wanted to go to another record, you'd see a different record. I'd see this guy, okay? And by the way, that navigation, you could do navigation between the records down here using this thing at the bottom. That's what's called the navigation bar. And you could go from record to record on that, or you could jump to the first record, or you could go to the last record. Or you can hit this last one here that has a star, and that actually puts a new record in here where you can type in new data. Okay. Now you don't type anything up here in the find record, but as soon as you start typing something here, and after you save what you've had in here, it'll be added to that drop-down list then, and then it will appear next time you go to this one. All right. But you'll also see in here, it leads this with this label that says customer. That's the one we set. Okay. The navigation label, that's it. Customer. We did that. Okay. So, but here's a problem. All right. If I start tabbing, which basically lets you move from field to field, okay, it actually would have when this first came up, the cursor was in address because that was the first one I put in. These were the last two I put in. I really want the cursor to be in this field, and then I wanted to follow a certain order as I tab. I wanted to go from this one to 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 this one, this one, this one, this one, and then go into the rich text, into the memo field. All right. So to do that, I'm going to go back, and again, there's different. This is called tab order. There's a tab order that goes with the canvas itself. I'm going to close down my property sheet so you can see this. If I put my cursor on the canvas right now, I'm just clicking on this right now, and I right click, you'll see a thing that says tab order. If I look at that, it doesn't show too many controls. The only controls I have in here right now are that little hidden control for the record identifier and then this big tab control, okay? But if I go to each of these tabs, so if I go to this customer tab and I right click on it, all right, see how I'm going to show you this so you can see it. I could select the whole tab by going to the top here of the tab and clicking in, and now it outlined the whole thing, all right? But if I want just the tab, a particular page of that tab, it's called a page. This is the top page, okay? I click anywhere in here, right click, and you'll see a tab order for that. I go to tab order, and you'll see all the fields that are in here, all the controls that are in here, I'm sorry, okay? And you can see that my name and my mailing label are at the bottom because those are the last two I put in. I want name to be first. I want mailing label to be second. To do that, I could right click on this little box that's right here on the left-hand side, and I move that up to the top. Same thing with the mailing label. I click on that, and then I hold that box. I left click, hold it down, and I drag it up underneath name, and now those are in the right order. You have to do that. Otherwise, I guarantee you will start building a form. You'll realize there are fields you didn't put back in customer. You put them back there. You start dropping them in. You start moving things around. And then somebody goes to use it, and they're jumping from this field down to this field, down to this field, down to as a tab, okay? you don't want that to happen. You want them to come up in a certain order. So if you look at this now, it's going in, and I actually put the contact notes in here last before I put these two in here, so it's showing it last. But if I did this auto order here, what it will do is it will find the thing that's most up to the left and go across, and then the next control it hits it will put in here, and then go down in the next. So if I do auto order right now, you'll see they get out of order. Right now, if you look here, that mailing label is actually a little bit higher than that name. All right, so that's probably something I want to fix. So I'm going, thank you, auto order, for showing me that. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to hit this one and this one. I'm going to select both of those by holding the control key down. And then I'm going to go up to arrange and align, and I'm going to line them at the bottom. And now that pretty much assures me that those are sitting at the same level, okay? So that if I go back now and I hit the tab order, and I do auto order, you see the name is now first mailing label, now address, blah, blah, blah. But you can see my contact note is still out of order. That's because bam, bam, and then I got that, okay? So what I want to do is I actually want that to come up last. I want them to be able to tab into that last on the sheet. I'm going to move it all the way down to the bottom. And I'm okay with that. I say okay, and now that's done. Save it, all right? So that tab order's been saved. The pages themselves, you could add pages or you could take them out. What you do is you go up here and you highlight the entire tab control, and then you right click, and you'll see when it says insert page, and it'll put a new page in there. And it gives you the default name. This one's saying page 281, and it always puts it at the end. But you can move it around, okay? One of the things I could do, again, highlighting that tab, I could go to its properties, and I could get that either here, or I could double click on it, okay? Or I could have that highlighted and go up to design. In Microsoft Access, there's usually 3 ways of doing anything, okay? And if you look here, it says that this is the 6th, this is page index 6. But if you count this, there's 7 of them. Why is this 6? It starts with 0. So customer is 0. If I went to customer right now, you would see it has 0, and I gave it the name customer. Preferences is 1, and this one right here that I just put in and gave it the name page 281. I could call this whatever I want. I could call it school, whatever. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing it to show you, okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give it the name school. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, name school, and I could give it a caption too of school. I think it's just caption actually that works. You know, if you don't give it a caption, it will use the name. Yeah, that's right. Okay, it's school. It's caption. It actually is the name that goes here. All right, and say I wanted that to be the second one. Well, then I give it 1, and then as soon as I change it, you see it moved over there. So now I really don't want that in there. I don't have anything about school in here. So I'm going to go in here, and again, since it's already highlighted, I'm just going here and going to do delete page, and it gets rid of it. Be careful doing that, because right now if I went back here to customer and I did a delete page, guess what? It all disappears. Now, if you haven't saved it, you could probably do a Control Z and it will bring it back. But if you save it, you've lost it, okay? So be careful on that. I've already put together these, the preferences and the payment card. Now, it's interesting. These don't look very much different, but look at payment card here. It's not like the other fields, right? It's got this thing that shows it's a drop down. This is a combo box control, and it was built automatically. How did it know that? Back here in customer, when we built the foreign key field for the payment card, which is this one right here, and the lookup, it had display control type combo box. Don't change that. You want single picks always to be a combo box. And it turns out multi-picks, they're called a list box, and you always want them to be a list box. And I'll show you what a list box is in a second here. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go back to it in form view again. I'm going to move over to payment cards so you can first see, here's my drop down, just like we had in the data sheet, right? And I even get that ghost form. I don't have to do that. It knows that that's there because I set that up in the lookup for the field that it's bound to. It brought up that over and built it all. All I had to do was drop that in from the existing fields list that I showed you before. this thing right here. In fact, I'll do it again for you just so you can see it. This one right here that says, right here, payment card. All I did was I dropped that in, and you can see it comes in as a drop down, as a combo box. Now, I didn't want that, so I'm going to Control Z to get rid of it. All right. For the list box, the preferences are actually a multi-pick deal. All right. And for multi-pick, what you'd really like is to show it as a list box. In other words, show as many of them as you possibly can. Now, if I had a lot more than this, I would have actually gotten a scroll bar over here, but I get to see a lot of them at a time and pick them. Somebody once asked me, how come that it doesn't work like that in a data sheet? It doesn't, okay? Because data sheets only want to give you a real thin line, all right? They give you a combo box instead. But when you do it in a form and use the multi-pick one, it'll come up as a list box, which means you need to have enough room to expand it so you can see all of it. And that's one of the reasons why I put preferences on another tab. And I also put a memo box about notes about their preferences. You know, maybe there's something I want to keep track of about one of these things that they picked. Payment card, you see I've got the payment card type, the number, blah, blah, blah. And you'll notice that this one here, the payment card expiration date, since it's in the past, it came up red. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second, okay? But right now, again, notes, this is that star dash notes one. You don't have to do any, of course you can put any data value in here you want to, but you don't have to do anything on this tab. I would not delete this, because if you did, that data value, that field is still over there in the table, so leave it here. Same thing with attachments. Attachments are here, and if I wanted to, I could attach something to this right now. You might notice when I clicked in this box here, I got this ghost up here, and one of them says Manage Attachments, and I could click on this. This is exactly the same thing that you had when we did a data sheet, where I could go and do an add, and I could pull some kind of file off of my system that I want to and put it in there. I'm not going to do that right now, but you get the idea, okay? And then data revisions is just a combo box where you could make notes about any kind of changes you may have made to the data of this record. All right, pretty neat, huh? So the last thing you really need to know in order to do your homework assignment, and again, I know this looks a little bit easy, me doing it, but I've done this for a long, long time, okay? It takes a while to get a good touch and feel for all this. By the way, every single one of these pages on this tab, I made sure that the tab order was correct. Always do that. Always check your tab order. When I tab, and when I say tab, I mean that when I'm on a field like this and I hit my tab key, it moves to this field. It moves to this field. It moves to this field. Then it moves to this field. Okay, that's the order I wanted to see. I didn't want it to go from here to here, over to here, back to here to here. I actually told it I wanted it in that order. And I did that by doing the tab order on that one. There they are. Okay. Reason I'm spending a little bit on tab order, I realized that when I looked at my LO3 assignment, I just said do that, and I didn't really show you how. But if you watch the video, I do it in the video. So you know it's how to do it from there. Okay, and of course you'll have this lecture now that you can look at. So I'm going to go back to customer now. I'm really happy with this form so far. But again, one of the things I want to do is, if they're older than 55, I want to basically put something on the screen that indicates that's true, you know, that they get a discount for me, all right? So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a control on here that's not bound to any field, but we'll use the value of this control in order to calculate the how old they are in years, okay? Now, the value of a control is basically whatever data value is in there. So if I go in here right now and I was to say, what's the value of this birth date control? The value right now for this record is 1/1/1958. If it was blank, it would be null. Okay, that would be the value for the control. But that's what I want to do, is I want to work on the value of this control, and it's whatever data is in that control, whatever value is in that control. It's not the field itself, okay? We're not going back and pointing at the field. We're actually pointing at the control that's bound to the field. I know that's really confusing. It took me a long time when I first learned Access to really understand that. But when we go in and we try to make a calculation based on a value in our database, it has to show up in control, and we'll use the value of the control. All right, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to make a field that's, a control, a text box control that's not bound to any field, but we'll have a calculation, they call it an expression, that will use this value here to determine their actual age, okay? That's called a derived control, all right? Now, back when I was showing you the subject table, there was a type in there called calculated field that I told you never to use. It's evil, all right? I used to call these calculated controls, and I decided to change the name to derived controls because people were getting mixed up with that, okay? Because later when we do a query, we're going to see a derived field too, all right? Okay, but just know that if you ever pick up an old book on databases and they say calculated field or calculated control, it's usually what I'm doing right now, okay? I changed the name to be derived because Microsoft screwed us up by calling that other thing calculated control, all right? But I'm going to do a derived field right now that basically says the age of the customer. So to do that, I just go up here to the top, and you see this one right here that I'm highlighting right now. It says text box on here. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to come down here. I'm not holding that down, by the way, okay? If you were using an earlier version than 2013, you actually have to drag this in. In 2013 after, all you had to do was activate it. So you just click on it, you move down here, it should gray, you'll have this AB symbol, okay? And then click with your left, hold it down, drag out the area that you want that text box. And now you've got that, and you can see it's unbound. You can also see it actually put a label on here too, okay? I'm gonna move that label over, and then I'm gonna move this box that says unbound down. And I know it's a little bit off, so it's funny because after you've done this a while, you could, by the way, you could just highlight this and hit your down arrow and it'll move it just a little bit, or you can use your hit control arrow and it'll move it a real tiny bit. So that's what I did to just reposition that. And then I'm going to resize this so it's in line with the other ones too, okay? So I'm going to change this label to be age. I'm going to make it look like the other ones. And to do that, I use the format painter, and I'm just going to take the one for birthday and put it there. So now I'm pretty much ready. Yeah, I know it is a little bit off still. So I'm going to try to, there we go. I think that's right. Yeah, it looks a little bit wrong too. Let me see. Maybe because I held my control key down. Let me try to expand. There we go, just a little bit. Okay, there you go. All right. Now, how do I actually get that to show the age of the customer? I could do it right here if I want to. I could start typing in this expression, but you won't see much of it. I recommend that you open up this, you go and highlight that, and open up its properties. So now I'm opening up the properties for that text box. Okay. Now, one of you asked me when you were doing this on your own, do I need to name that? I think it's a good practice. Okay. In this case, I don't think we're going to refer to this control anywhere, so you don't need to. All these controls were actually named by Access. If you look at the conventions for the class, I have conventions for naming controls. The good news is you don't have to do that for the class, okay? Except when we have a control that's referred to by a macro or by an expression that's in another control. Okay, we're not going to be doing too many of those, okay? But to give you an example, this one I did up here that was unbound, I did have to name it because somewhere I have a macro that after a value is picked here, that macro actually moves us to the right record, okay? It does the search for us, okay? So I did have to name that. When I do an unbound control, I often will name it, okay? So since this is a text box, CTB, again, I may not have done this on the video, and that's okay. You don't really need to, okay? But I'm going to call it CBT age, all right? And that way, if I ever do want to do a calculation based off of what's in here, I can do that, okay? But truthfully, I'm doing a calculation based off of what's here. And that one's been named TBX customer dash birth date. I went in and named that, okay? I didn't really need to, though. I could have left that DTM customer birth date and it would still work. But I like to do that because sometimes when I've got the name and the source control with the same name, Access gets a little confused. So it's just practice. And again, I don't always do this in all my videos. But here what I did is I decided to make this TBX, meaning it's a text box that field's bound to. Now, I think it was Josh asked me, should it be TXB DTM customer birth date? No, not really. I mean, all you have to do is use the same handle basically for the file. You don't have to have the prefix again. If you really wanted to, you could have made underscore DTM, okay? If you wanted to do it that way. I'm sorry, I should have made that underscore. I made it plus underscore DTM, okay? I don't get too caught up on those kind of things, but you do want to make it something unique so that you can refer to it, okay? Because we're about to do that. We're about to refer to this control. And again, I know it doesn't show it exactly the same way in the write-up. It'll work either way, but I'm showing you what I would typically I would want to do. And in fact, I'm going to fix the write-up sometimes so that it actually looks this way. But now what I want to do is I want to put an expression on this age, okay? So I'm going to go up here, down here, and you'll see one of the things it says is control source. Over here on birth date and the other fields, their control source was the field that they're bound to. This isn't bound to anything, so it doesn't have a control source. But I want it to. I want the control source to be basically an expression, a formula, all right? And the formula I'm going to use to do this, and it's not that hard, and I got a page down so I can make sure I'm typing it right. The formula to do this, what did I do with it? Okay, here it is, oh man, I do have a DTM in the other one, don't I? Okay, when you look at step 3 in lesson 3, it shows DTM, and that won't work if you actually have changed the name of this. I'll tell you what, just to keep it the same, I'm going to make it the same thing. But I would usually change the name of that. I'm going to change this back to DTM. Okay, just so I don't confuse you too much. All right, I'm going to save that. All right, and now, again, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to use equals. Equals tells it that I'm about to enter a formula, an expression, kind of like how you do in Excel. You know, either put a plus or an equal sign. Okay, year is a function that returns the year from a date. So think about what I want to do. I want to take today's date and I want to subtract the birth date, right? And that'll give me the number of years. Now I know it may not be exact, you know, it may be, but I always say this is what they will turn this year, okay? This year they will turn this age, okay? So it's not exactly right because they may not have hit their birth date yet, or they may have hit, I'm sorry, if they did hit their birthday, they're a year older. No, that's wrong. If they haven't hit their birthday yet, they're a year younger, okay? But we'll just say for sake of argument, we're just concerned about the age that they're actually going to be at some point this year when they hit their next birthday, okay? So, and I can make this grander to actually be a little bit more accurate, but I just want to show you how this works. So I've got date, right? Date brings back today's date, and I'm going to strip the year off of it. And I'm going to subtract, again, I'm going to use the year function. The value, I'm sorry. How did I do that? Okay. There we go. Minus year. Gosh, I'm having trouble typing. It's hard to see in the dark here. I have to be in the dark so you guys could see me when I'm on. Hey, Aziz, you're still there, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. I'm going to use DTM customer birth date. Okay, so now again, it's not the name of the field, it's the name of the control. All right, they both happen to have the same name here. If I had used CTX or CTB before, it would have been, is that right? Yeah, CTB before for control text box. I would have started this with CTB then. Anyway, close out the year, and I think that's it. Okay, now I should have the birth date. Okay, I'm going to move off there just so it gets in there. I'm going to save the whole form, and I'm going to go up and look at it in regular view. You can see what it did. It calculated their age. In fact, to be a little bit more descriptive, I'll say age this year's birth date or something, birth date. I know that's a little bit big. I have to close down this one. You know. Anyway, there's a way that I can make this 2 lines. I could go age. Let's try this. I think it's shift enter. Yep, shift enter does that. Okay, so that keeps it out there somewhere. Again, I would clean this up quite a bit, obviously, make it really nice. Geez. Yeah, now I'm going to warn you guys, you will spend more time designing your form, moving things around, making things are in the right, sure in the right place, making the look and feel nice than anything else you'll do in this class. And I take that into account. When I grade you, I'm looking for you to have spent the time to really learn this and be good at making a user interface. So spend time on the aesthetics. I'm expecting you to, all right? Now, if I go back in and look at that again, you see that it says age 62. I'd like that to stand out. When I go in there, I want to, well, first off, let me step back here, okay? That's a calculation. Right now, that looks like any other field, doesn't it? All right, that looks like something that I could actually tab into and change myself. And I can't, truthfully. I can't go in there and do anything right now. I'm hitting a lot of keys and nothing's happening because it's a derived field. It's been calculated. Truthfully, I probably don't want the end user to go in that field. This is just I kind of look at this as a message, okay? So I could fix that so they can't, all right? First off, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to highlight the field, and I'm going to go down to the bottom. And you'll see near the bottom that there is a, where's it at now? I always forget now. Enabled and locked. Are you seeing those two? Enabled means that the field is available. You can move into it, okay? Locked means you can't change the record. Right now, what this is showing is that field is enabled. In other words, I can actually cursor into it. And it's not locked, meaning that if it was any other kind of field, I could actually change the value. But this one, it's not going to let me change it anyway. It's almost locked by default, okay? So what I want to do is I want to disable this. I want to make it no, and I want to lock it, all right? Just for the sake of doing it, okay? All right, I don't want people to ever move into that field and try to change it, okay? That's great, but I still have a tab into it too, and that's a problem. In other words, with that tab order I did before, this is the last one I put on this page. It's going to be the last one in that order. If I go in there right now, if I go and look at the tab order for this, you'll see that's in there now, okay? And it's the last one. I don't want people ever getting in there, period, okay, no matter how it is, okay? So I really don't need to worry about the tab order. What I need to worry about is them not tabbing into this. And the way to do that is down here where it says tab stop. It says yes, make it no, all right? So now we did that. Now another thing I tend to do on my derived controls is give the background a different look so that the user knows that this really isn't something that they need to do anything with, okay? And you can make it the same background as the background of your controls so that they're just seeing a value on the screen if you want to. One of the ones I use a lot is a pale yellow color. I gave you the code for that. It's FFFCCC. All these things, you have a format up above where you could do the work. You could go in here and you could say, maybe I want that yellow. Well, that's too bright. I want a different yellow. I could come down here and say more colors and make it a pale yellow. And there's a pale yellow right here that I could use. And I like that one usually, okay? But those aesthetic properties are also in here, okay? So if I look up the background color for that particular control, for the control that I have highlighted right now. I go up to the top and look up the background color. You'll see the code for pale yellow. It's right here, back color. And I can actually set that from here if I want to. I can hit a drop down and it's got the ones that are built in, or I can hit this one here and it brings up that same tool I had before. So maybe I want to make it a pale red. I could do that, you know, and now it just changed the hexadecimal code for that, and you see it changed to red there. So everything, almost everything that you could do from the ribbon as far as setting properties, you could also do from the property sheet for whatever you're working with, whether it's this or it's the tab control. On tab control, for instance, I've got a back color, and I can make its back color a little bit different. Maybe I want it purple, and maybe when it's picked, I want it a little bit, well, let's make it a better one than that. Let's make it, as I said, I usually always use standard colors. You can make the, that's called the back color, so you can see the ones I don't have picked are that color, but the one I have picked, which is called the 4, I think. 4 color, is that what it's called? Yeah, 4 color. This dot, 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 I can make that a different color. Maybe I want that to be a dark purple. Whoops, that's not it. What is 4 color? Oh, 4 colors is the character, is the fonts that's on there. What's the color for the thing itself? Border style, hover color, press color, hover color. I know it's on here. Huh. Is these, do you remember? How come I'm not seeing this? What to make the, oh, it's pressed color. It's pressed color. I'm sorry. This is the one that's pressed right now. Okay, that's it. So if I came in here and I made it a dark purple, yeah, there we go. Okay, so and again, and you can do the canvas a different color if you want to. You come up here, and I let you do that, guys. I let you go in there and make these things whatever design you want to do. But you have to have the fields and they have to work properly. Now, one of the things I want to do, and I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to do this really quick, all right? One of the things I want to do is I want to make this one look different if they are actually over the age of 50, if they're 55 or older, all right? So, in other words, everybody else's record will be this pale red, but I want it to be green, a bright green if they're over 55 or older. So I'm going to go over in here and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to bring up at the top here under format what's called the conditional format. If you've done conditional formatting in Excel, it's very similar, except it's a little bit more constrained. I'm going to create a rule, and I'm going to say if the field value is greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to 55, then I get to specify what I want the format to look like. So I want the background, I'm hitting this pink color here, and that gives me the background. I want the background to be green. I'm gonna make it a bright green. Make it a bright green. Come on, take it. Why is it not taking it? Okay, bright green. It's kind of showing you what it's going to do. I'll make the letters bold, and let's make the letters white. And I think that's the default color, but I'm just going to select it anyway. We'll make it like that. I can make it, you know, I can make it italic if I want to, whatever. Okay, and I'll say okay. All right. Now, there was one other thing on that I needed to show you. I'm going back and edit that rule really quick. See this little box here right there that says enabled? Right now that's clicked, and that, remember, I disabled this. Believe it or not, when that rule fires, right now it's set it back to enabled. I didn't discover that until last semester, actually. So I want to unclick that box to make sure it's disabled no matter what happens, all right? I found that out just by accident. One of my students said, how come I can cursor into that field or into that control? And I said, you shouldn't be able to. And it was set to be enable was set to be no. But then I found out that little thing has to be unclicked. The conditional format will actually undo the enhance, which I don't like that at all. But just remember to do it when you do have enabled off. Now you've got that set. So I'm going to go up here now. I'm going to save it. And I want to go in Bring it up, and you can see the first one, she's over the age of 55, so it made it green. Over 55, that one wasn't, so it set it back to its default color. 65 was over. Isn't that nice? Nice little conditional format, okay? Now that's a conditional format on a derived control. You can use conditional formats on any control. On payment card, for instance. This is a value they could type in. I want them to be able to move into that field, all right? But I also want to check the value that they type in, and if it's before today's date, in other words, the credit card expired, I want it to show it as red. So the way I did that, I'm just going to show you the rule behind it. Again, I go to payment card. I go down to that field. I highlight it, and I go to format and conditional formatting, and you'll see there's a rule in there. And that rule says if the value is less than today's date, then make it that. Here's the actual rule. I'll bring it open in edit mode so you can see it. I left that one enhanced, so that is clicked because enabled. I'm sorry, enabled, because I do want them to be able to go in there no matter what the format is. Okay, so that one I kept enabled. Okay, so for your homework, and again, let me just check my notes really quick to make sure I didn't forget anything. I know it seems like a lot, but again, this is one of those things you will be doing a lot, and you will figure this stuff out, and you have a lot of good examples to show you how to do it. One of the things people have asked me, you know, how do I get to know what those properties are for doing the colors on the form and all that? You know, you set these up, you know, and you said it was in the property sheet. There is one of our references for the class. Is RJ, Form Aesthetics. And if you open that up, when it opens, okay, if you open it up, you'll see that what I've done is I've given you some examples of different combinations of colors and told you what the property values need to be set for each one. I don't know why this always takes so long to open when I'm on Zoom, but you can see here's one for this particular one. Actually, you know, I've got this blue background, and it tells you what to set in the form header and what to set in the form footer. And again, on this we didn't have a footer, so you don't have to worry about doing that. The details section, it tells you these are the properties. Look for back color, back color, back color, back color, hover color, press color, hover for color, press for color, for color. Those are that will basically allow you to make these things different colors. And I give you a whole bunch of different combinations that I think look really nice. You can do whatever you want, okay? But I would like you to try to do something, okay? Now, on this first one, it's not mandatory. If you try and do a good job, I might be so impressed, I might give you a little bit of extra credit, okay? But if you don't do it on this one, and I probably won't do too much, I won't take off any points. But after this, when you do your project and all that, I will demand that you start making these things look really good. You do have to have the tab controls, the tab order correct. I will expect you to put some kind of indication for what's required and what's unique. And if you want to do rich too, you can do that. So there is a variation of this tutorial for multi-field alternate keys. It's after the regular tutorial in the write-up. Some of you have already been playing around with multi-field alternate keys. You can look at that. It gives you guidance as how to do that. Basically, you have to change the query a little bit in the source code, the row source for the find record control. So having said all that, I want to really quick go over to our homework. Boy, this is a tough class to teach, this one. There's a lot to cover in a short period of time. But this way I could give you another night, so another lab night, and that's always nice. So, the assignment, AO3, okay, I'm giving you the write-up, basically. Now, in this one, boy, again, I don't know why sometimes the files take so long to open when I'm in Zoom. But anyway, here's your instructions, and it's pretty much like the other things that we've done so far, okay? What you're going to do is let me step back here. You're going to do a table for contacts and other people that you have contact with, all right? And I actually have already given you the work file. By the way, those of you who haven't been using the work file, like I've demanded several times, you're getting zeros, okay? I know several of you actually used work files from other semesters for this last assignment and you got zeros. And you know what? You do it again, I'm failing you, all right? Use these work files. I gave it to you for a reason. And that reason is so that I know that you actually did the work, not somebody else. All right, here you go. I don't know why I'm not, geez, it just opens kind of funny. Okay, here it is. So I've already built everything for you. You've got you got the subject table. You've got four different lookup tables on this, and you've got the lookup forms. All you have to do is build the subject form for this. And again, if you look at the relationships are already set for you, so you're ready to go. All you have to do is pretty much the same kind of things I did tonight. So in doing that, what I want you to do is, again, replicate the subject form that I show in A03-01 solution compiled. I've given you the compiled version of this. I just want you to go in there and basically replicate what I did there. So you'll see this is it. I want you to build that same thing, okay? Now, one thing I didn't show you tonight is the control to do a map, all right? That's an extra credit thing. If you do it, I'll give you a couple points. I want you to try to figure it out yourself. Usually most people get this, and it's not that hard, and I even give you a little help on it in the instructions, right? But I basically want you to build this whole thing. Again, name things appropriately, put things where they should be, make sure the tab order is correct, and there is a, and of course set the find record identifier, and I forget, there is a conditional format here. Oh, I think it's, where was it? Let me look at the, boy, I'm having a hard time jumping back and forth here tonight. I don't know why. So, by the way, attachment fields, I almost always set an attachment field tab stop to no. I found that sometimes people tab into a attachment field and it could cause problems. So I give you a little tip about that right here. Provide the visual cues. If the contact's birth date is this month, then highlight it in the checkbox. Just make it a bright yellow. Similarly, if the contact's anniversary is this month, do the same thing. There is no derived control in this one, I don't think. Oh, yeah, there is. I'm sorry, there is. And it's the one that we'll use on that map. All right. So on that map, you'll actually create a derived control, and I actually give you the expression. You could copy and paste this in, but be careful, because one of the things I notice when you copy and paste in the Access, this line here, it may put a line insert in, okay? In other words, it's not really reading that whole thing. So you may have to actually type this out, the whole thing. And it's not a lot of typing. You can do it. I tell you how to set the lock on that. And no, you've got complete instructions. Again, I want you to put data in here, test everything out. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right? Thursday is a lab night. Okay, that means you will do Lab LO4. The reason I'm being adamant about this is last Thursday, some of you got on Zoom, all right, after I told you 3 or 4 times it was lab night. That tells me that some of you either don't understand the syllabus, or you didn't read it, or you haven't been coming in class and paying attention, because I've told you several times you're going to get lab nights where you have to watch the videos and do the tutorials. If you're not doing that, I guarantee it, you're going to fail this class. Okay, and I know some of you haven't been. That is not directed at the lion's share of you. The most of you have done a really great job so far. Keep up the good work. Do some good work on this one. I think a lot of you are really going to start enjoying this class with this one. So anyway, and again, thank you for giving me a little bit more time. Tonight's one of the harder lessons to do. There's a lot to cover. I think we got a lot of it done, though. If you have any questions during the week, drop me an email. Again, if you send me a question that I think everybody needs to know, I'll send you an email. Please read those emails. I'm not doing those for my health, okay? That's as much learning in this class as anything else that we do, okay? So you could go, but if anybody wants to stay, if you have any questions, anybody wants to stay, I'll stay on for a few more minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody who's leaving, thank you.
Abdulaziz, did you want to walk me through what you thought I was doing wrong on the form?
Well, okay, I am getting into this Zoom from my Mac, so give me just a second. I'm gonna switch to a Windows based, and then I will be right there because I am attending the Zoom on a Mac.
Well,
Okay.
Aziz is doing that. Does anybody else have any questions? Julie, I see you're still on. Do you have anything?
Yeah, for the homework, did you want us to like copy it exactly as in like the theme colors and all that?
No. Again, use your own.
Okay.
Okay. No, I really hope you do. Okay. I hope you do different things. Okay. All right. But be careful. Again, you're going to see when you hit that drop down that has the colors on it. You'll have at the top, it'll say theme colors, and then the bottom says standard. Stay away from theme, because here's the problem. Those are the Windows theme colors, okay? So if Microsoft